It's 2024. I can't seem to go a year without adding some new garden beds. So these are my beautiful ones that my husband built for me this year. They're triangular, going back under this gorgeous arch, which I got jealous of other people who had these beautiful cattle panels. And let's just explore a little. So this is my delicata squash, which is going crazy. I've got some climbing nasturtiums here as well. And over here, here's my loofah. So as the season continues, this will just get more and more lush and green, and I can't wait. I've got some little peas down here that are starting to get flowers, that are starting to climb up. Oh, this right here, this is it's good for hummingbirds, a little flowering plant, which hopefully will go up and up. So it's fun even before it reaches its full beauty to look around and imagine it and watch the progress. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. Come with me, I'll show you what else I've got growing. Here I've got corn, and you may notice at the other end there's also some corn. Now, corn is wind pollinated, so usually you wouldn't want to have two different kinds of corn this close together, because if the wind pulls the pollen from one patch over to the other, you're going to get funky kinds of corn growing because you're eating the seed this year. You're not affecting next year's corn so much as this year's corn if you have cross-pollination. But in this case, I can get away with it because one of my corns is a baby corn that I'm supposed to harvest before it pollinates the little kernels. You actually eat them unpollinated. So what I do is as these flowers start to open up on my baby corns, I cut those off because I don't need them. I'm only getting pollen to one set of my corn, and this way I can pack it in and have two kinds of corn growing quite close together. And of course, I plant my corn in the Three Sisters method. So the squash is also covering the ground around where my corn is growing, and I have some pole beans that you see starting to snake up, wrap around to anchor the corn to the ground, and the squash deters raccoons and things like that from coming and stealing the corn before we can eat it. And over here, you can see the sweet peas are peeking out, and that's a hyacinth bean. So hopefully that will start to take over this trellis and just be gorgeous on this side. Also new this year, this beautiful garden arbor and this climbing rose, which was flowering a little earlier. Hopefully we'll get some more to come up here to enter into the main front yard garden, which is a little overgrown because my 9-year-old has started mowing the lawn, and we don't pay her very much, and her performance reflects that. We've got our peppers, tomatoes. I find it hard not to let my radishes flower. Once they get a little too set in there, they're just such nice flowers for the bees and butterflies, so I tend to leave them, and then they crowd into my peppers, as is happening here. And then I get that, how far do I leave them? At what point do I need to pull them back for my peppers? This happens every year, so this year's no different. Always a little overgrown. This is my daughter's garden. I've got some cosmos that are going to come up. She's got some tomatoes ripening, which is lovely over here. And I'm doing a better job of our flower perimeter. These flowers in the boxes along this front fence right here. I didn't do very well with getting many flowers last year. I think I did a better job of choosing which flowers to use and maybe even planting them. There's a couple little strawberries. I've got some peanuts in there as well. I find every year my flower game gets just a little bit better. I'm not an expert flower gardener at this point, but I will settle for constantly improving, constantly growing as a gardener. That's the name of the game. And then this, he's really proud. This is my son's tomato. This is one plant right here. And he is so proud of the fact that he has such a big and luscious plant. I believe this is a Matt's Wild variety, and I have been pruning it fairly aggressively these sun leaves, especially on the interior. I keep coming and cutting them back, but my goodness, it just keeps on going. And there are also some morning glories that volunteered and are going around here, which probably doesn't help for airflow. They have these big leaves, but my son really likes them, the purple flowers, so he doesn't want me to get rid of them. So there they are. And then over here, next to our big clump of volunteer tomatoes and volunteer sunflower, are the posts from my neighbor's spite fence. The fence is not up yet, but this is the intended place for the spite fence to go. Now, why am I calling it a spite fence? It's because we've been told the reason the fence is to go up is because she wants to block the sun from our garden. This way is south, this is the way that the sun goes. So for a lot of the day, there will be shadow in this direction if this high, and I'm told solid fence does go through. But the fence, I don't think the garden bothers her too much. I don't think so. It probably does. She would probably prefer that we didn't actually live in our house, that we just owned it and maintained the property in a, you know, grass is dandelion free and constantly cut, but nothing else much happens. But regardless, the reason the fence is going up is because she doesn't like that we have chickens. And she can't stop us from having chickens because we're allowed to. We live in a city where it's quite easy to get a permit. The city approves of us having chickens. They really like this program. Lots of people have chickens. So she can't attack the chickens. So she's attacking the garden. You know, many people, many of you probably live in areas where your neighbors can put these restrictions, like no chickens, like no front gardens, on you. We don't. This is how the restriction is sort of getting put through, with a slight plot twist. It's not finished yet because she thinks this is her property. She may be wrong. So we're finding out where the property line is to see if she can. And one reason that I really hope she can't, besides, yes, it could block us, that we can move the gardens. That's not that big a deal. We do have more space. We could move the gardens and get back into the sun. But if this fence goes up, we already have a trellis that's up over here where my beautiful kiwi vine with the variegated leaf pattern is starting to grow. But she wants to build her spite fence all the way up to here. Now, intentionally, we have the trellis end here and the garden end over here, which maintains this pathway, which goes straight towards this arbor and straight up to our mailbox. This is the way that the mail carrier likes to walk because it's a shortcut from her house to our house. We've seen in the winter, this is the way before anything was up here, the mail carrier liked to take a shortcut to prevent themselves from having falls on the ice, just to save some time in their day. Spite fence goes up, mail carrier has to go all the way around, which is really a shame when we intentionally left a path open for them. So maybe we'll have an update on what's going on with the spite fence a little later in the season, but for now, that's where we are. And actually, before we move on, this bed with the radishes and the peppers, this is such a good example of my kind of chaos gardening, which is to add some plants, probably crowd them closer together than I should, have some volunteers, and then, you know, not really feel like thinning things out, just see what happens. So I have growing around and everywhere. This is my watermelon, and look at my beautiful watermelons are starting. Here's one down here, right next to my beets, watermelon, onion. Then I've got my zinnia, and this right here, this is a potato that volunteered from a potato that I guess I missed harvesting last year. And the same thing over here, this one, look, the tops are dying. So this is actually really good for harvesting. So I'll have potatoes pretty darn soon out of this one. This one's a weed, I'll get rid of that. Over here, these I planted on purpose. These are my peanuts. I just have everything going on in here. Of course, my radishes that have gone bolted and are flowering and are over everything. My hot peppers over here. And I see a strawberry. I can't remember if I did that on purpose or not, but I did have some strawberries around here. So deep in here, underneath my pepper, I've got a little strawberry growing. So this is the kind of gardener that I am. I love to have a whole bunch of things growing together and see the pollinators come, the pests be confused, but sometimes it gets a little hectic. If you engage in chaos gardening, sometimes you have to deal with the chaos, and that's where I am here. Let's go see what else I have. These are my beautiful grapes, which are formed all over the place. Now I just have to have them ripen on the vine without being eaten by, not all of them, eaten by the birds and raccoons and things. Now grapes don't keep ripening after you harvest them. So that's a problem. I can't harvest them early and then just let them ripen when they're inside. But look at these gorgeous, look at this right here. Look how many grapes you can see growing. It's beautiful. But right here, these little things, these are the bane of many gardeners' existence. These are Japanese beetles. If you see beetles, this kind of iridescent, greeny, purpley kind of beetle, these ones are trying to mate here, these will eat your leaves, and you can see some of my skeleton leaves here that Japanese beetles have attacked. And they're no good for your garden at all, a very invasive pest. So wait 1 second over here. I'm just gonna leave my cameraman and go get a small container of water, and I'll show you how I deal with them. So I get my container of water. This is just plain water. People say to use soapy water. Plain water works just as well. And you just knock them in. One flew away there. If you can do this in the morning, they tend to be a bit sleepier, and you tend to not have to be quite so fast. This one up here, knock it in. Scrape them in on the side. As many as you can get in. Get my water underneath and knock them in. There we go. Good. Oh, I can see one's trying to get out. Knock it back in. Knock these ones in. There we go. There's one right here. Knock it in. Got him? Oh, that one's trying to fly away. Go in. Ha. Go in. Ah, yeah. Knock it in. A good firm shake, or occasionally I'll sort of scrape them in, get them to land in the water. Okay. Ooh. All right, we always say Barry loves treats, and pecking orders are definitely real. Barry is the head of the pecking order. So watch what happens. This is Barry right here. Hi, Barry. You know what's coming, don't you? And there she goes. Sometimes someone else can get one, but Barry is pretty fast. No wonder she lays the biggest eggs. Ooh, look at the bees over here. Look on the borage. Look at them. Come see. Come see, they love it. This is volunteer borage. And this is the backyard garden. Lots of things also let flower, going to seed on purpose, because once they start to go, and I see how much the insects enjoy them, I find it hard to pull them out. But lots of production happening too. Look at these beautiful peas that are growing here. I've got some tomatoes and beans and things that are starting. Right here is one of my patty pan squashes with little tiny baby right down there. Oh, little tiny baby came off. Okay, little tiny baby that's not going to actually develop, but that's okay. Some will come. Sweet potatoes, my cilantro, which is gonna seed and give me more cilantro, another zinnia. This is so my happy place. And this is the original garden where it all started, where I continue to grow as a gardener. Ooh, I love discovering what's growing. Look down here. We've got a couple red tomatoes. So I'm gonna grab some of these now. There's always something to find, something to snack on in the garden, something I didn't realize was ready, and then you get a little surprise and a change in your dinner plan. However your garden grows, I hope you love it as much as I love mine, and keep growing as a gardener. The other thing you can do if you find the odd Japanese beetle, especially situated between two leaves like this, you just go, oh, crunch. Okay, no more Japanese beetle. Ugh, I don't like that feeling, but it does do the job. We do have quite a big zucchini as well, which I should probably harvest. I just twist them, especially when they're big like this. Comes right off. Beauty. And my husband makes the best zucchini fries. They are so good. They've got a Parmesan kind of coating on them. They're baked in the oven. They are to die for. So if you have zucchinis, you'll never think you have too many again if you get that recipe. Check the description below. I'll see if I can find it.